but she's not going to just be able to do these like super powered up 50-50s. Meanwhile, Law's dumbass here is doing this shit from crouch. Oh, from crouch. Going the step. Like immediately after he does the low. He's just going like completely anime mode. Like, dude, he does this, he chops your legs, and then goes, and then like kicks the air and then like breaks a table or something. He's like the damn Energizer Bunny. He keeps going and going and going. He never stops. It doesn't make... Why the fuck would you...
God, that guy was annoying.
Oh! Hi, didn't see you there. Hold on, let me. Hi, didn't see you there. I'm Seth. I hate Tekken 8. That guy was annoying, wasn't he? If you want to look at more of him, then check out the link in the description where you can find the live stream where we first reacted to the patch notes. Today, I'm instead going to be talking to you like this because it seems like a lot of you guys like this format, and telling you what I think about the emergency patch. And well, as you can probably tell from the thumbnail and the title of the video, as I imagine it's going to be, I like it a lot. I know that a lot of Tekken streamers, content creators, YouTubers, whatever, clickbait, like Tekken is saved, knee is so back, etc., etc. But I'm very happy with the emergency patch for Season 2. Now, I want you to keep in mind a couple of things when I'm talking about the Season 2 changes here. The first thing is that I primarily play Soul Calibur. I've said this time and time again, and I think that it's important to make sure that you are aware of that, to know that I'm looking at the game and the changes from a very different lens than most Tekken players. And that's why a lot of the opinions I have and I share are very different from a lot of content creators, because I just view the game differently. And I think that's one of the things that makes these interesting to watch, at the very least, and I imagine why quite a few of you are here, is because I offer a different perspective, and maybe it makes you think about things in a different way. And that's going to be really important when it comes to the health change. But the other thing that I want you to keep in mind as well is that throughout the entirety of Tekken, I haven't liked the game. Even back in 2023, when they first showed the game, my opinion on it was very low, because they were taking the mechanics and the ideas from Soul Calibur 6, throwing them in the Tekken, elevating them to 2-3 times their strength, and just giving it to you more frequently. And so pretty much everything that people are talking about with the game right now, I was saying back in 2013, I felt when the game came out. And so this is the first time since the game was released where I'm feeling more positive about the game. And so that should give you an idea that this video isn't just like me trying to clickbait you or trying to say like, oh, Tekken is so back, and then say throughout the video like, yeah, this kind of sucks. I'm actually very happy with the changes, and this is the first time in over a year that I can say that at all. So I guess let's just start with talking about a couple of the changes, and I want to start with health, because this has definitely been the most contentious, controversial change in Tekken 8, and I have had a very different opinion of it than every other content creator, because I play Soul Calibur. And so I'm used to the health being bigger. The ratio between like poking and combo damage in Soul Calibur 6 is very similar to how it actually is in Tekken, but the health is not only about 2 times bigger than it is in Tekken, but Soul Calibur 6 also has guts. So I'm already used to playing with more health, and with how momentum heavy and poke heavy this game is, how like small Tekken built in to big Tekken, I've been actually wanting the health to be increased since the game was in beta, which I can definitely tell you no one was saying except for me. And a part of that is because I'm used to the health being bigger, right? So I have a bias there, but at the same time, I feel like it's always worked. The thing with health that I think Tekken players don't understand largely is momentum and the concept of momentum and how you play small Tekken and you build in the big Tekken, because that's just not something that exists normally in Tekken. But the way that the heat system works, the way that like everything is plus now, you have plus on block mids, you have plus on hit lows, which was in older Tekkens an abnormal thing to have. Now it's more commonplace. And because of that, you can very quickly and easily build off of like a down jab into a huge 50-50 mix-up. And a lot of Tekken players are still playing the frame trap game, fishing for counter hits, what you would do in old Tekken games, and they don't understand how powerful momentum is. So I'm editing this here because I talked a lot about momentum in the initial recording, and I think that like how health and momentum and all of that works probably should have its own video. It ended up going for way too long to a point where I think this is a discussion we need to talk about separately. So when it comes to health and momentum, I'm gonna put it like this, and this might be a little bit of an awkward cut because I'm not quite sure I'm gonna add this. Yeah, I just got finished recording the initial video, but the way that momentum kind of works in Tekken is just very strong, right? I'm going to show you an example right here of a coaching session. So hopefully I can edit this so it actually makes sense. But this is an example of momentum. And I'm going to show you this with both characters too. Momentum and momentum shift in Tekken 8 is so powerful that just ends the round in seconds, even if you realize it's happening or not. Momentum, in my opinion, is just much more powerful than combos because it's safe, everything's plus on block, it's a mix-up that leads into a mix-up on block, the opponent has very little counterplay, the counterplay they do have leaves them at a lot of risk, and then you add on top of the chip damage, punishing them for blocking, and it just gets out of control. The reason why this happens and why this exists in Tekken 8 is because of the tools that are available. Pokes are more powerful, heat engages exist, there are more plus on block mids that lead to 50-50s, lows generally now are plus on block instead of being minus like in older Tekken games. So what ends up happening with momentum is that you hit like one poke, like one down jab, and then you convert that into something that leads to a mix-up. Like, let's say Azucena down jabs, convert that into running 3-2, go in the stance down 3, from crouch mix-up. Oh, you try attacking into it while rising 1+2 counter hit launch, so you don't contest it. Azucena can then do more mix-ups from there. Like, she has many options. She can do from crouch low, forward 3+4, while running 3+4. She can, of course, try to cover herself with the counter hit option. She can try sidestepping into a low. She has many options, and you as the defender don't have a lot that you can do about it. So the thing is with health that the increase in health stops this. Because not only does it give you as a defender more options to be able to counter these situations, because if you get launched, you get hit with a heat engager or whatever, it's not the end of the world anymore. You get hit by a launcher or you get hit by a heat engager or whatever, and you don't lose the round on the spot. So you can make more defensive decisions. You can take bigger risks. That's a big thing. But then the other thing too is that momentum isn't just going to win you the round. You can't win, well, you can still win, but it's less likely for you to win just randomly, just by doing a bunch of 50-50s and the opponent guessing wrong. It's so much less common that now you have to interact with the opponent more. And there's more I can say about this. Again, I might make this into a completely separate video, but I don't want to go on too long so that this video doesn't go on for half an hour like the original recording did. So what I'm going to say to summarize this is that I feel like personally that I have to interact with the opponent more because of the health changes. I feel like the dynamic works more like Soul Calibur, where you have to be able to not just poke the opponent to death. Well, I say poke, 50-50 the opponent to death. That might start off with a poke or something. You can't just let momentum carry. You have to be able to play neutral. You have to be able to interact with the opponent. You have to be able to play Tekken better. And I think that you have to be able to use combos and poking and momentum all in tandem with each other, which wasn't the case before. Before, in Season 1, if you played a character that excelled in poking and small in the big Tekken characters like Lidia, Azucena, Steve, Jin, Dragunov, then you don't need launches. You just win off the momentum. You win neutral one time and you just go, and the opponent dies. Now that's not the case. And so I was able to pick up on this very quickly because I'm a Soul Calibur player, right? So I'm used to this ratio of combo damage and poking to health. And so I was able to immediately change my gameplay based on the health. And I can tell you personally that I feel like there's more interaction. There's more strategy involved. There's less of a emphasis on 50-50s. You have to be able to use more of your toolkit. You have to be able to use more strategy. You don't just have one set game plan where it's like, okay, I hit a key engager, and I do this, and this, and this, and this, and then like you win the round, you come close to winning the round. It's a lot more dynamic, it's a lot more interactive, and it's just overall a lot better. And I think for Tekken players, because this kind of thing isn't normal, it doesn't exist, Tekken players aren't used to it, it's gonna take a while for Tekken players to get used to. But like I said initially when I read the patch notes, I think that eventually Tekken players are going to get used to it and then look back at how it was before and think, how the hell were we playing the game with that much health? And this is why I've been asking for this change since the beta. And I'm a fan. I really like it. I think it helps the game a lot. I think it improves the game a lot. I think it is the biggest change that they have made in this update. And well, I mean, maybe chip damage as well, which we're going to talk about in a second. But I'm happy. It makes the game more fun. I feel like I have to play Tekken better. I feel like I have to... The game is less random and it's more skill-based. And overall, I'm very, very happy with the health changes. So again, I will probably make a completely separate video talking about this more in depth. There's a lot more that I want to talk about with it. There's a lot more about the health stuff that I think is relevant, and I know that you probably have more questions about it, so keep on the lookout for that. But I gotta keep the video going because otherwise, like I said, the initial recording I talked about was for 20 minutes. So look out for that. And hey, if you want to look out for that, that gives you an excuse to like and subscribe, right? I'm trying to do that more. Anyway, sorry, I'm being annoying. Let me go back to the original recording now. I'm sorry if there's a little bit of a cutter. It's a little bit awkward, but I'm trying to get this out today just because of the timing. So that's my thoughts on health. I'm really happy with it. It's a great change. Now, when it comes to the other things as well about the update, I think that generally they're just moving in the right direction. I think that... well, for one thing, they are removing instances of forced 50-50s because they removed the wall stagger. And so people have been saying, like, okay, yeah, this is a step in the right direction, but it's just more casino 50-50 gameplay. Ignoring the fact that, well, they've addressed part of that. And of course, they're not going to be able to fix everything in an emergency patch where they take 11 days to be able to put it together. Of course, they're not going to do that. But of all of the things they could do to not only show they're listening, but actually help part of the game, removing wall stagger is a big one. Things like Jin's Heat Smash is just, they've changed it now. And that's a big thing because the move was clearly designed and intended since the beginning to do that. And so the fact that they're willing to look back at that and say this is a bad idea and then completely change it is a really good sign that they're listening and they're not just stuck on the gameplay philosophy of how they want the game to look, but instead they can take a look back, they can take community feedback, and they can go, yeah, this is pretty dumb, and then just gut it. And the other thing too about this that's really good is the fact that there's no compensation buffs, right? This is what I talked about in my previous video on why Season 2 is the way it is, because every single system mechanic that they buffed, they gave a buff in return. For like the nerf to heat engages, the universal nerf to power crush heat engages, they gave a buff in return. And you can see this like in every single change in the patch notes. And for this patch, there were essentially no buffs across the board. They had a big game warping universal change to not only wall stagger, but also health and chip damage, and no compensation buffs whatsoever. I think that's the biggest thing that shows us that the game is going in the right direction. It is completely different from the balance philosophy from the beginning. And then on top of that, if that's not enough for you, the fact that they've said they're going to continuously update the game throughout Tekken World Tour, which again is completely against the balance policy in Season 1, shows that they actually are admitting they're wrong. It's not just PR speak where they're saying they're sorry and they screwed up. It reflects in their actions, in how they have changed their policy and how they are going to continue balancing the game moving forward. It speaks volumes. And speaking of chip damage, that's another big thing too that got changed, which is a huge step in the right direction. Me personally, as a Lidia player, this change to chip damage, particularly when in heat, affects Lidia probably more than any other character in the game, and I couldn't be happier. And the reason why is not only because of the whole thing I talked about with momentum, but the other part too is that I feel like I have to actually utilize her entire kit in order to make her work now. Before, there was a set sort of strategy and game plan that you did with Lidia, as there is with a lot of characters. And the reason why Lidia stood out to me and I like her so much is because I always felt it was dynamic and you could actually like interact with the opponent because there was always counterplay to what she could do. But nevertheless, the chip damage that you could do with Lidia back in Season 1 was absurd. Being able to do one heat engage or do hammer attack and then get the opponent in the rage was just unhealthy. And even I'll admit to that. It was the most unhealthy thing about Lidia, bar none. I think there are a lot of healthy things about Lidia. I think she's very well balanced, but the chip damage was absurd. And going into Season 2 as well, even though there was like a minor little slap on the wrist to chip damage universally, it was still very strong. And you combine that with the momentum-based gameplay that Tekken 8 has, and that's the thing that, in my mind, made Lidia top 10. Now, not everyone would agree with that, but in my mind, Lidia was top 10 because of the things I've talked about before with momentum, how you utilize chip damage, her unorthodox playstyle, and I think the reason why a lot of people said that she's bottom 5 is because they're just not used to that. You have to play Lidia differently than you would a normal Tekken character. There's a reason why she's a combination of like every 3D fighting game all in one character. Virtua Fighter inputs, DOA holds, Soul Calibur like gimmick system with her stacks, and then of course she's in Tekken. And I think that reflects in like how you play her, how you utilize her in the neutral and stuff, and that's what makes her fairly difficult and unorthodox and just kind of weird to understand. But now, because of the change to chip damage, someone calculated, and I can't remember exactly what the number is, but I believe that after these changes, her total chip damage, if you do a full hammer tech sequence with Lidia, has been reduced by 27%. Which is huge, especially when you add on top the 20 extra health that the opponent has. Well, that both of you have, either way. So this makes solely relying on chipping out the opponent not a viable strategy. Chip damage is still important and it's still very unique to Lidia, but you can't just win by the opponent blocking. You have to do things to open them up. You have to do more to get those stray hits with like while running 1, forward 2, have it in a 2, things like that. And she definitely has moves that help with that, like core circle forward 4, red poppy. And because of the changes now, that makes these moves a lot more powerful and more relevant. I said back in my Season 2 overview video with Lidia that the changes to all of her level 3 stack stuff doesn't matter. It's just not relevant. And the reason why is because of what I'm telling you now. By the time you do an entire chip sequence, the opponent's in rage. If you hit a counter hit down back 3, then they die anyway. So what's the point of deleting the gray health? But now, because of these changes, it does matter. You're not only does the opponent now have more opportunities to be able to hit their heat engager, come back and recover that gray health, but you're not going to be depleting their entire health by just doing chip damage. And that means that you actually have to interact with the opponent more. You have to try fishing for counter hit down back 3s. Building 3 stacks is more important. And because of the lack of chip damage too, I found myself earlier today, instead of going for the normal thing I would in here after forward 4-2 hits, where I do horse 1, wolf 1, and then heaven and earth 2, because it keeps up the momentum and it does so much chip damage. Instead, what I'm doing is actually hitting horse 2, just so I can build the extra stack. It's that good now. It's strong enough where it actually does matter, and deleting gray health matters, and the extra combo damage that you can squeeze out matters. And I've been doing more launches, and I've just been trying to play neutral better and interact with my opponent more because of the health change and the chip damage change, which is huge. It adds to more strategy. It adds to more varied and dynamic gameplay. It means you have to play the character better. It means you have to play Tekken better. You have to be a stronger Tekken player than your opponent, which I already felt was the case with Lidia against a lot of characters, but especially now. And that makes her more fun to play. Now, it does make her worse. Absolutely. There's no arguing that. I don't think that Lidia is a very strong character in Season 2. I didn't think so before, and I don't think so now. But to me, that doesn't matter, because I'm not a competitive player. What matters to me is if the character's fun. And she is. I think not only did she dodge a bullet, but these changes have changed Lidia in a way that makes her so much more interesting than she was before. And I'm really glad about that. I've had more fun playing Lidia than I have in months today because of these new changes. And that's why I feel like Tekken 8 is saved. You know, that's why I feel like Tekken 8's going in a positive direction, because I'm actually enjoying the game. I'm having more fun than I did before. I'm having more fun generally now with Season 2, at least with this one day, than I have the entirety of Season 1. And that to me is the biggest thing. That to me is what's telling me, yes, this update is good. This is the right direction to go in. And if we keep pushing down here, then Tekken 8 is going to be the best Tekken game ever. And it took a lot for us to get to this point, and it's not over yet. There are still problems. There's still, like, Lars' stupid stomp, which he can power crush. That's still something that exists, and that needs to get fixed. There's still problems with character identity, like Steve. That's absolutely something that needs to get fixed. Lee, everything that happened to Lee, that's something that needs to get fixed. So it's not perfect yet. But they're going down the right path. This wasn't something that could get fixed overnight. The balancing philosophy, the balancing decisions, the update policy was very flawed. It was the wrong direction going. It was the wrong thing to do. And I think it's very clear to all of us. We can all see how much of a disaster that was. And they did too. And so the fact that they've gone back, they've revised everything, they've really looked in the mirror, and they've said there's a mirror over here. And they've said, what do we need to change? What do we need to do to fix this so that our game is good? That is what really matters to me. If they had just made 10 billion changes all at once because of the backlash, that to me wouldn't have been good. And the reason why is because that would show that they're scared. There's a big difference between updating your game and balancing your game because you want the game to be good and for people to enjoy it, and you're scared of your community. What this update has shown me is that they are taking a step back and they are making good, rational, balanced decisions. Not because they're scared, because they genuinely care and they want to make Tekken 8 good. If they didn't, then the changes would have been a lot more harsh. It would have been a lot more brash. And they would have been a lot less incremental. We're seeing changes right now that do a little bit, but a little bit goes a long way. And they can tweak that stuff as the season goes on. And to give you an example of how they're changing this, look at June. I think June and her changes are the biggest indicator of what we're going to be looking at throughout the rest of the season. Because her stances actually have counterplay now. She doesn't just do 1-2-2, up 2, forward 3-2, go in the stance and get a free mix-up anymore. Now, she actually has to use these moves to fish for counter hit. Now, there's a risk-reward to it, but the reward she gets isn't just a free mix-up if the opponent doesn't duck the high. This is what I was talking about before, too, in my video about stances being implemented in Tekken. And how the problem in Tekken is that stances are designed around you go into the stance and you get a 50-50. That's your reward if the opponent blocks the move. And that's why you have so many of these stance transitions like Steve's Peekaboo 2, June's up 2, or 1-2-2, or whatever that are highs. Because before, the philosophy when it came to balancing these things is that the risk is that this is a high, you can duck in and launch, so if it gets blocked, the character should get rewarded. And now we see that you can sidestep right all of June's options except for the homing move. So now all of a sudden, this becomes a mix-up that June has to take a bigger risk to be able to enforce if it gets blocked, and the defender has defensive options that cover multiple options that June can do simultaneously. And if they guess right, then they get a big reward for defending. It is a complete 180 of the previous ideas that they had on stances. And it is the right way to go down. And so the way I look at the June changes is that this is a testing ground. They can't do everything all at once for all of the characters because of the time it takes. But I think that this is an indicator that the general perception and idea on how you implement and incorporate these 50-50s into Tekken 8 has changed internally. And it's for the better. It is much more rational. It's much more sensible. And these are changes that we're probably going to be seeing across the board throughout Season 2. And so, all in all, I look at this patch, and I see nothing but good things. Yeah, we can argue that, some things maybe could have been touched more, like there could have been more things, like maybe it's not enough on some of the changes, etc., etc. But we have to look at the overall picture and the health of the game and the direction they're going in. And what they're doing with this patch is everything correct. There's basically nothing wrong. And that's the first time I can say that about anything related to Tekken 8 since the game released. And so this has left me more hopeful than I felt ever since the game was announced. That Tekken 8 is going to do well. Everything's going to be fine. We're moving in the right direction. And I think that, Season 2 is going to be a long road. There's going to be a lot of changes. There's going to be a lot of testing. There's going to be a lot of small things here and there. It's very much a beta stage. But come 6 months from now, a year from now, by the time Season 3 comes out, I'm hopeful, if they keep this up, that Tekken 8 is not only going to be the best Tekken game of all time, it's going to be one of the best fighting games of all time. So, fingers crossed. Anyway, that's all I got for you today. Thank you very much for watching, and have a good rest of your day. Bye-bye!